My king's army is due in 6 days. All I've left to do is deliver Tarzan to Chief Bongo. I'm aware of his obsessive desire to kill your husband, but I've yet to discover the cause. What did Tarzan do?
Killed his only son.
Oh.
And get ready, because that is nothing compared to what he will do to you.
Your husband's wildness disturbs me more than I can easily express.
And that's a clip from The Legend of Tarzan. It stars Christoph Waltz, amongst many others. Christoph, hello, how are you, sir?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for coming on. We've been looking forward to having you on the show for a long time.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I could finally make it.
Yes, well, we are too. So we've seen many incarnations of Tarzan and the story over the years. Tell us what kind of a Tarzan movie this is.
I'm not a Tarzan historian, so I only saw one, possibly two, the Johnny Weissmuller ones from the 30s. I think from the 30s or 40s. And I of course, I saw them when I was a kid, and I know there are about 200 of them. So that's an interesting thing altogether. Why? What makes this character Tarzan, who's kind of a dubious creature as of lately, in any case, what makes him survive 200 movies? That's more than James Bond. And I'm convinced these modern mythological figures survive because they change and they allow contemporary interpretations and new perspectives. So it's a new approach. It's taking Tarzan back from England into Africa, meaning the direction of the whole thing, the dynamic is already in the opposite direction, really. And it takes him into historical context in this version.
Yes, in this version. And are we going back to this story because it is, even if it is dubious, as you say?
No, I said the character.
Yes, the character, yeah. Even if it may come over as dubious. And and a bit like we go back. So there's two versions. There's one version of The Jungle Book, which is hugely successful. There's another one on its way. Do we go back to these stories because they're, however dubious they are in some areas, they're great stories?
Well, you're talking about story. The Jungle Book, that's a story. Tarzan is a character, and that character lives through different stories. And I said dubious because, yes, there has been, and justifiably so, the accusation of racism and the white man being superior to the black man, and the white man being the king of Africa. And, of course, you could see that in our case, in this movie. Since he's taken back, he's more or less taken into the fold. And into the fold, not only from a geographical point of view, but from the historical. And he's actually exposed to horrible machinations that they discover. And our Tarzan doesn't save history, he saves the day, what a movie hero should do.
And the horrible machinations that you talk about is where you come in. So this is where Leon Rum. I mean, there are, but you are the envoy of the King of Belgium. Right. I think an entirely fictitious character. Tell us about him and how he fits in.
Well, entirely fictitious. Yes, this specific character is entirely fictitious. Yet there have been people who did exactly what this character does. And I'm convinced that there still are more than we would like to see, at least from our modest liberal point of view. Still governments and certainly big corporations wreak havoc that equal the havoc that colonialism wreaked.
And in the many terrible stories of colonialism in 19th century Africa, the Belgian story is particularly brutal.
Well, yes, but I refrain from pointing fingers at others, because this is still going on. And this is just pars pro toto. This was particularly brutal. Now I'm familiar with that more than I'm familiar with the rest. But as I said, I'm convinced this is a current problem as much as it has been in the 19th century. For the sake of an adventure movie, it's good to create a little distance because, the question has come up. Is it legitimate to mix historical horror with a popcorn adventure movie? And I would never question the legitimacy of it. On the contrary, I think it's a fabulous combination because it entertains. Doesn't mean it shouldn't have a deeper layer, so-called food for thought, and kindle your interest in and your awareness along with the entertainment. Absolutely, yeah. Belgium, as much as any other colonial power, exploited their colonies to the degree where they didn't shy away from slavery, from genocide, from ruthlessness of breathtaking extent. I
guess people who are listening might be thinking, we're talking about a Tarzan movie, which for many people is like a fantasy story, and in the course of this conversation, we're talking about genocide. Yeah. And slavery, and that, if anything, at least it must be a tension, which can be a creative tension.
Well, absolutely. No. You said it. Tension can be very creative, and I always try to maintain a certain awareness of responsibility. If you're trying to tell a story to a bigger audience, hoping for the audience to be in the millions, you have a responsibility. You can't just say, hey, I'm so clever, I'm so talented, I'm so great, I can tell them whatever, and they'll lap it up. Why would they lap it up? I think communicating with many people at the same time heightens the responsibility. And I always try to be aware of that. In this case, it was part of the plan.
My guess is that you enjoyed playing Leon Rum an awful lot. And I love the fact that he is very mannered. And he is very respectable and overtly religious, and yet this brutal monster.
Yeah, I just enjoy playing complex characters because I like to be busy, and not only physically busy. So that's what I'm really after. I'm really trying to grant even characters that might seem or appear to be what we call horrendous and horrible. I'd still like to grant them humanity.
Yes. But they're still horrendous and horrible.
Well, yes, one doesn't contradict the other. That makes for really flat, one-dimensional characters.
Right. And when you call them monsters, that's almost an excuse for not trying to explain their humanity, which is a cop-out.
Well, yeah, and it finishes the discussion. What you're trying to do is open a discussion.
Yeah. I think I'm right that when we see the Congolese jungle, it's actually London. Is that what a lot of it was?
Yeah, Leavesden, Watford.
It's Watford. Very good. I like that. And London was your home for many years. Do you still feel
absolutely?
Still feel at home here?
I still feel at home. I still feel connected. I still consider it my favorite town in the world.
Because
I have friends here. I spent an important part of my life here. There is a connection to the mentality. I think architecturally it's beautiful. Culturally it's probably one of the most exciting cities in the world. The diversity that everybody else is talking about is happening, without any further ado. People just get on with it. This is exactly how I think it should be. Yeah. Well, I know what it leads into.
Yes, yeah. No, well, you have been asked a lot about that. So it's a movie show, so we'll talk about movies. But you're about to direct. I think you have a story on the way. Is that?
Yeah. That's right now. It's caught up in a legal quagmire of a fairly ridiculous extent.
So we best not talk about it.
Well, we can talk about it, but I would sling the wildest accusations.
Okay, well maybe not. Though you were on an American chat show recently, I was watching it last night, and you ended up talking about people who eat food in the movies, and they go to the cinema and they eat vast amounts of food, and they bring in entire meals and they bring in picnics. On this show a few years ago, we introduced a code of conduct. Yeah. Which we asked everybody to observe in the cinema.
And I'm all for it.
Right.
Let me hear the code.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. So this is it in brief form. Okay. No shoe removal. No arriving late. No kicking of the seat in front of you. No mobile phone usage at all. No hobbies. No irresponsible parenting. If it's a 12A, don't take your 5-year-old. no rustling of crisp packets, no slurping of drinks, no eating of anything harder than a soft roll with no filling. Would you endorse our code of conduct?
Yeah, well, wholeheartedly. I would go a lot further than that. No excessive aftershave, because why would I sit in this cloud of stink just because someone is trying to impress his girlfriend? No stinking food, but that goes with no eating of any. Yeah, and certainly even during titles and credits, no conversations. People completely lose their, in a way, bearing. And the environment, they're not aware of the fact that others might have come for the movie.
Yeah. And if movies are going to battle for attention, going to the cinema has to be an enjoyable experience. And if the person, we mentioned The Jungle Book, and I've mentioned this on the show before, but the person next to me had an entire Mexican meal with glass jars and dips and the whole thing. And I desperately wanted to, and I didn't because I'm a feeble kind of English southerner. And I wanted to say, what do you think you're doing? You are stinking the place out. I don't want to be a part. Anyway, but I didn't. What I needed was Colonel Hans Lander to come along and enforce the code.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm against
violence,
Nazi enforcement of any kind. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't want to kick the person with a Mexican meal, at least in the shin.
So controlled violence. Okay. What do we see you in next, Christoph?
I'm not sure. There's a movie sort of in a holding pattern. I have no idea what's happening with that. It's called Tulip Fever. It was supposed to be out, but I think they didn't really get the spot, the right slot for the release, so they're hoping for a better one. And then after that, I'm not sure.
Christoph, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.